Rahul and information developers. Information
Cái này
developers.
gọi là tình loại.
Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, great. So once again, my name is Keith Johnson. I'm from Miami, Florida, United States. I'm a tech writer with about almost 25 years of experience. I've also worked periodically as a trainer, and in those cases, I've had to write training documentation, so training manuals. The difference between a user guide and a training manual is a user guide is complete. So the training manual is more focused on specific tasks, but the user manual covers everything. It's like a dictionary or thesaurus. I mean, you cover everything in your user guide. So I've been doing that for about 25 years now. And I recently wrote a book called 365 Technical Writing Tips. And the reason I wrote that is I wanted to bring to the marketplace everything I've learned. I wanted to be able to take all my experiences, good and bad. It's like lemonade. So everybody throws a lemon at you, and then you produce this huge pitcher of lemonade, right? So it's the same thing. I've taken all these experiences, good ones, challenging ones, productive ones, unproductive ones, lessons learned, and I put them all into this book because experience is the best teacher. I sincerely believe that from my book, you're going to get more than any class. And it's because I'm taking you into my experience and what I've gone through. And with that said, the topic I'm going to cover today is information gathering. Okay, I sent Rahul a diagram. If you guys went to LinkedIn, you guys are following me. My latest article, I want to keep my face up because I like for you guys to see me as I'm talking. Basically, information gathering is the most important part of the tech writing experience. You also are going to eventually write, edit, and publish, correct? But if you do not do a good job in gathering information, your document is not going to fly. So for those of you that are coming from the aerospace industry, think about it like this. You can have an expert pilot, you can have a great airplane, but if you don't know how to fly it, if you haven't built it correctly, if you haven't done the legwork and really designed the aircraft well, it's not going to fly. A document is nothing different. What you need to do is you need to reach out to your stakeholders. You have two primary stakeholders. You have your tech stakeholders regarding the technology, which are your SMEs. You have your business stakeholders. That's the business. They're the ones that asked for the document in the first place. And then you need to get to work and very methodically and appropriately prioritize and get your information. So it's going to take time. You don't just sit down in one meeting with your SME. You don't sit down in one meeting with your manager and suddenly it's done. I mean, when you're talking about a 200-page manual or say a 100-page manual, there's a lot going on. So these are the steps that I take. Number one, I meet with my manager or I meet with my supervisor who first comes to me and says, Keith, I need this document done. So I say, okay, great. So let's sit down. I want to know your expectations and your scope. So scope and depth are kind of like in a two-dimensional space, height and width. So the height is the scope from the business side, and the width is the depth from the SME side. That's going to tell you the volume of how much you're going to be producing content-wise, technical content-wise. So first thing is meet with your boss who comes from the business side. Now, mind you, the business doesn't know probably even what you know because you're a tech writer and you work with developers or engineers. So you're actually going to know more than they are, but don't worry, that's okay. So just listen to them, let them tell you everything they have to tell you, okay? So you have the full range from the business side, from the business stakeholder side. Then what you do is you go and you meet with the SME. Now the SME is going to tell you, really, you're going to write all this in a month. You're kidding me, right? Okay, that's happened to me many times. So then what you do is on the first meeting, the SME, he's going to say, okay, in 30 days, you can only write this much. So then you get another meeting and you meet with the business stakeholder and the tech stakeholder together. And then you work out the differences between what the business wants and what technically the organization can handle in terms of its infrastructure and it's technical knowledge, and also technical resources like SMEs, testing platforms, etc. So remember, we walk on two legs. One leg is business, and one leg is tech. But they have to be balanced, otherwise you're going to fall over. So the tech writer is more than just a writer. And we're still in the information gathering stages here. We're still we're almost like a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. We're trying to take a Republican and a Democrat, if you will, and bring them together and say, let's talk. Okay, we have a common goal. In this case, it's a technical document. What do we have to do to get this out the door? What do you need from me? And let them hash it out. Now, you're going to see in a meeting like this that the manager's going to say, wait a second, but I need this. And the SME is going to say, well, we don't have that. See, so what you're doing is, in addition to writing your document, you're also showing the organization where it's got mistakes. It's like a boat. The boat has a small hole in it, right? So a little inspection of a boat shows you where there are even small holes that can sink the boat. So writing a technical document brings to light your infrastructure, your knowledge base, information you have, static information on the internet, resources, software. Everything that you're going to be working with and everything you're going to do is going to come to light in the information gathering process. That's why I wanted to bring this up in this topic, because it's so important. Because once you have all of your information, and ironically, the writing is the easy part, editing and publishing, that's all mechanical. We all know how to write a sentence. We all know how to put together a basic Word document. That's not the issue. The issue is getting your information. And so that's why I tell you, you need to work hard. You need to prioritize. You also need to say to your boss, look, if you want me to meet with subject matters A, B, and C, I need you to send them an email and legitimately pull them away from their projects so you can meet with them. Otherwise, they're not going to meet with you, because remember, they're the one to lose their job. They're the one to be put in a position where they, have to say yes to you and say no to their boss for another project. So there has to be a coordination, an official coordination. And all these things that I'm talking about, I cover in the book, by the way. Okay, so tech writing is not just writing. It is strategy. It is approach. You're working with constraints from information, infrastructure, politics, expectations from the business. We're working with a lot of things that you're not in control of. But the way that you get you wrap your head around it is by priority. If the SME and your manager and the owner or his manager, like the CTO or CIO, are all on the same page, guess what? You're going to get your document done. So they all have to understand that this document is a high priority. And when they understand that and it's enforced, then you're going to get time, you're going to get your information, and you're going to get your document out the door. Guys, okay, can you guys hear me?
Everybody, please keep on yourself mute. I don't know what is happening. Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay, guys, so anyway, so the reason why I want to bring this up in this book, and this is one reason why I wrote my book, in addition to showing you guys how to write a cohesive sentence, was to give you tools on getting a job done. In tech writing, it's almost like going to war. So you've got to fight a battle, but there's strategy, information. How are you going to succeed in your mission? So the corporate world is very busy. There are a lot of things going on. So what you need to do is you need to know who to go to, how to prioritize, how to get your boss and his bosses to say, look, to send an email, this document is #1 priority, not #2, #1. And that email is going to go to subject matter A, subject SME1, SME2, anybody else. And so when you go to them and say, look, okay, let's meet and let's discuss this, they are legitimately, they can legitimately step away from their workstation and meet in the conference room and discuss their matter. And it's not like their boss is saying, hey, wait a second, why are you talking with Keith? Why aren't you working on this other document or something? So you have to streamline, but you have to do it within the system and within correct means, right? So it's like anything. In my personal life, I double check on everything. I trust people, but people are people, and people forget and they make mistakes. So just to confirm, so if I'm going to have a meeting with my doctor or my mechanic or whatever, I say, just to confirm, it's tomorrow at this time, or we're going to do this, right? Okay, great. So same thing. So confirm. Try to do as much as you can on the front end. So that way, when you finally get your subject matter experts or your boss in a conference room, you're not sitting there saying, oh, what was it I wanted to discuss? I worked so hard to make this meeting, now I forgot what I'm going to do, right? So what you want to do is do as much of the legwork up front, even before you meet with an SME, and this is one of the tips in my book. Send them an email saying, what do I need to ask you? What do you want me to research so that when you talk about this system or this assembly or whatever it is, I'm going to understand what you're talking about. So you want to go into your meetings prepared. So the two most important things, in my opinion, are doing the legwork up front and giving as much consideration to the individuals and the processes involved so that when you finally meet with them, you're maximizing your time. Because obviously, the great wild card, like many other jobs, is time. Time is your wild card. Time is limited. The clock's ticking. Your boss is saying, I need this document. Maybe you go to somebody and say, I have to meet with you tomorrow. Well, that's 24 hours. That's a long time in the business world, 24 hours, when you depend upon somebody whose information determines the rest of your document, right? So this is the reason why I wrote my book. It is all, I could only, actually, another name you could give this book is the Technical Writer's Survival Guide, in a way. So it's even more than just tips. It's actually a survival guide. Once again, based on things that I've done in the field, how to pull resources together, how to show people, look, this has to happen. Oh, and another thing, many times people who challenge me and say, Keith, I don't have time for you. I can't meet with you. We can meet tomorrow or next week. I say, look, I guarantee you, and on lunches on me, you are going to be one of the first 10 people who's going to ask for a copy of this document, and you're going to put it to work in your field. And you know what happens? They have to buy me lunch, okay, guys? I'm serious. So what I do is when I get the document done, even before I'm done, I get an email from that person saying, hey, Keith, I really enjoyed meeting with you, actually. Let me know when that document's available. I want a copy of it. So here I am at the tail end of my project, my document, and I'm already getting emails from managers, SMEs, other people who've helped with the document. And guess what? They're the first consumers of the document, and they're not even my intended audience. Now, that tells you something. So documentation is a little bit like being an evangelist in the sense that you're standing for something. You're standing for a deliverable. You're saying this document is not just something that's going to get stuck on a server somewhere. They're going to be people using this document. Their lives depend upon it, their productivity, and maybe even the organization itself. Maybe you're writing a document for senior tech support. So a customer's out there somewhere, maybe it's a cloud application, and you've written a troubleshooting guide. Well, that tech support guy or gal, they're waiting for your document because they need to know the steps to go through if your customers or clients are having a hard time, and they're also paying a nice fee every month to be able to use that service, right? So documentation, people have to understand, is not something passive. Documentation is everyday critical information that allows the organization to survive and to function, okay? So if you guys want to throw your questions in, I'll take your questions now, okay?
First question from my side, Keith.
Yes.
I have gone through your book and I highly recommend this book to everyone. Even I have given in my website, in the recommendation list, I have listed this book.
Thank you.
And I have listed only 3 books. Before this, only was Chicago Manual and MSTP was there in the list. The third is this one. And my question is, why and how you write this book? What is the reason behind this? What kind of gap do you see? Because still I don't find my student asked me, Rahul, which book should I refer? Apart from MSTP and Chicago, I don't find any single book which
right.
I can recommend to anyone.
Right. I don't know if you heard my comment before, but another name I consider giving this book was the Tech Writing Survival Guide, or the Tech Writer's Survival Guide, something like that. Because tech writing is more than just prose. It's more than just writing sentences. You have to meet with people. You have to dig for information. You have people who don't want to meet with you, okay? So it's survival. So you're trying to, that's why a lot of people don't like to do tech writing jobs, okay? I've had interviews where they say, oh my God, finally, and I've heard somehow, finally we got somebody to take this job because nobody wanted to do it. And why is that? Because you're like a journalist. So you think that when somebody goes to watch Donald Trump speak at a press conference. You think he wants to answer the question? No, he doesn't. I'm sorry. Okay, so it's the same thing. So you're dealing with people with power, executives, business owners. They're busy, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I don't have your time for you. And this is why I wrote my book, because this is going to give you legitimacy. It's going to say, look, this document is the survival of our company. Without this document, we sink like a boat will sink. So this is a book that will enlighten you and to give you you'll know what to say and how to say it, and you will survive in the field. So that's the reason why I wrote this book, because I want you, whoever reads this book, it's your survival. I want you to succeed in your job. I want you for the company to value you, and my book will give you all that.
And what is the difference between book writing and technical writing?
Excuse me?
What is the difference between book writing and technical writing? How you plan your chapters, how you plan your complete book?
I wrote this as a reference guide. I could have divided up like composition, software, open source tools, meetings, insights into Microsoft Office. I could have done all that, but I know that people are going to look up things individually. They're not going to necessarily read it like a novel. So I wrote it in the spirit of a reference guide, almost like a dictionary or a thesaurus, because your time is limited. And maybe the idea, as you've scanned it, you've picked up the idea like how to work with Planner or SharePoint or open source tools or professional tools. You'll be able to go right to that section and immediately find that section and read up on what I've said.
So how it is different from technical writing and book writing? How there are differences there? What's process difference?
Right. There are many different kinds of book writing. There are novels. There's storytelling. There are books that follow different academic and professional protocols. Technical writing is the integration of technical knowledge with the standard language. In this case, obviously, the English language. So it's the integration of technical information and being able to put that technical information within the framework of the written language.
Okay, thank you. And how you estimate the price of your book?
I wanted to make this this book as available as possible. I saw other books out there, like the Dummies book for Tech Writing for Beginners, which is, by the way, is an awesome book. And I'm just a competitor, and I'm not here to put them down in any way. I think that their book is about $13. I put my book down to $9.95 to make it cheaper. By the way, Amazon gets most of the money. Just if you guys need to know, it's very expensive to put a book out there today, and Amazon has the best infrastructure for independent authors, and so that's why I've put it out as I have.
No, because I'm asking this question for the future writers, so they can plan like how to estimate the price and how to plan the book.
Right. Well, and I say this in a very positive way. What you need to do is the market is the market. So, like, let's say I have a car and I'm going to sell my car. It's a used car. I'm going to go on to, it's called Kelley Blue Book, and look at the marketplace and look what other people are charging. And if I don't need the money, I can charge what the market charges. Or if I want to get a faster sale, I'll put it a little bit cheaper. So that's one reason why instead of putting my book at, say, $13 or $14, I put it at $9.95 to make it appealing and to show you that I'm a sincere author and that I really want you to have this information.
Okay. And what about the future of technical writing? What is your perspectives like?
Okay, I don't want to scare you guys, but technical writing is going to grow. It's going to grow. It's going to get more intense. It's going to get more difficult because technology is growing. I mean, we are on the cusp of AI, excuse me, machine learning, and the turnaround. This is the challenge. This is true with any field, but the idea of turnaround, like they want to be able to hand you information and say, okay, I need this document on Friday. Can it be done? Right? That's the question. That's the $1 million question, if you will. So technical writing is going to grow because that need is never going to go away. Documentation, as you guys know, is the only thing that survives to the company. Look, even Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. You guys remember that, right? Back in the late 80s, Steve Jobs was ousted by his own company he built. Okay, so what does that tell you? That anybody and everything comes and goes to the company, but there is one thing that survives. And what is that? Documentation, right? And who writes the documentation? Your technical writer. So don't let anybody tell you that you're not important. You are writing the most critical part of a company's self-definition is this documentation. Documentation is internal and external. You have internal processes, you have protocol, you have standard operating procedures. On the external side, you have basic customer support, you have advanced customer support, you have deployment guides, you have admin guides for administrators of systems. So technical writing, you're covering a lot of things, and it's only going to grow and it's only going to get more intense.
Anyone else have some question?
Yeah, I did have.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity. Sir, thanks a lot for presenting your book. This has been a wonderful know-how about a fellow technical writer actually taking it to this level. I think I will, the next thing I'll do is to go back to Amazon and buy a thing. Now, my question was actually a continuation of what you had presented just now. Okay, now, yes, I recently presented a conference, a STC conference on AI and ML myself, about its implementation, how it impacts documentation. But then in the plenary level, I just want to know how I can prepare myself to launch myself to tell the industry that I'm here I am, and I can contribute this in this way. So how do I really literally show to the outside world that I'm ready for AI and ML documentation? Or how do I push my company to leverage on such kind of technologies to implement such things in customer documentation? I've asked 2-3 different questions. Please help me to answer.
Okay, I'm going to tell you guys something you're going to find ironic, right? Here I am in America in the West. I'm a big follower of the Buddha, who was from India, the great Buddha, right? And he said that ignorance is the #1 enemy we all face, okay? So this is why I wrote my book, okay, is that people are locked into their limited views. People say, oh, I'm busy, I'm sorry, I don't have time for you. You know, and I appreciate that. And I say, look, please understand that this little hole in the boat is going to sink the entire boat. So did any guys see the Titanic? Did anybody? I hope you guys saw the movie The Titanic. Please watch it if you haven't. They built this beautiful ship back in the early 1900s, and there were thousands of people on the boat, and they went too fast. They couldn't see the iceberg, and the iceberg sank this multi-million-dollar ship, okay? Documentation is the same way. Documentation is saying, slow down. There are icebergs ahead. We're going to navigate this carefully. Documentation is the salvation of a company, because everything that needs to be said to define the product, its support, its implementation, its development, everything is in the documentation. Anybody that doesn't honor that is sinking the ship. Okay, that is my honest opinion after 20 years in the field. Anybody that doesn't want to put a little bit of time into the documentation to make sure it's really good is shortening the life of that company. So you have to say, look, I'm here not just for my career, sir or madame. I'm here to help this company survive in the business world, which is very competitive. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of things that go wrong. The documentation, when it's correct, is going to be there for you in the future. So you, like I said, you have to become an evangelist and say, look, not only am I doing my job, but I'm here to make sure that this company survives. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Soumya, thank you for your information that you have presented in STC. I would definitely like Information Developer Foundation from IDF. I'd like to invite you for next webinar if you can, please. Because
yeah, I can help. I can actually, maybe about half an hour to 45 minutes, I can definitely present, sir.
Sure, because Bangalore have listened to you, Pune, Delhi haven't listened to you, right?
Yeah, I'm in Bangalore, so I'm from Bangalore.
Bangalore people have listened to you in your STC, but we haven't. So we will very, very honored if you can give that presentation here on our webinar. Sure. So any more questions to Keith? Soumya? Guha?
I have a question, Kate.
Please.
Yes.
So with like how Soumya asked, upcoming things like IoT, AI, ML, and data analytics, and so many things are coming up at a very fast pace. It's very really difficult to follow up with them because the pace is so much, and
Sure.
they're in different lines. So, do we have any pointers in the book to say to really get some information, where to really get some information about all these upcoming areas, so that we can be little prepared for whatever comes in the future?
Right. Remember that you can't do it. Like, let's say down here in Florida, I live in the state of Florida, and we have hurricanes down here, right? And sometimes a hurricane will knock down a tree. And let's say you're out there and there's a huge tree that's fallen down. It's going to take you a week or 2 weeks to cut up that tree and stack it in front of your house, right? You can't do it by yourself. So, like I said before, you need to be able to evangelize a little bit on the true needs of the organization. Like, for example, let's say you're working with Visual Studio and they're writing code in Visual Studio. There are code documentation tools that they can run on the code, which will produce an intermediate documentation. It's a little bit cryptic, but you'll have something. And then from there, you can extract what you need and do your job. So it's important to be able, for there to be a positive communication between developers, engineers, architects, and tech writers and QA people. There needs to be a solid communication and a very realistic one. And in that way, the phenomena that you're talking about will be covered, because obviously, look, the organization wants to survive, correct? I mean, that's the whole point of the organization is to survive and generate a profit. The only way that's going to happen is a sense of realism, okay? And if people are realistic, they will listen to you. If they're unrealistic, I hate to tell you, and I don't want to scare you, I've been in some companies that have been completely unrealistic and they did not do well, okay? Because they did not listen to the people who were in the trenches doing the work. They said, no, we don't have money for that. We can't afford this right now. And guess what? The system crashes or it gets hacked or something, or they buy a tool and it fails. Terrible things have happened, okay? And once again, the way that a company survives is that it listens to its people, okay? So be genuine, say, look, sir or madam, I'm doing this task that if I do it the way I'm doing it now, it's going to take me a month. But if you buy me this tool, or if I can attend this conference and learn something, I'll have this done in 2 weeks. And that is real. That is not fake. That is not, you're not taking advantage of the company. You're trying to survive. In fact, the fact that you care is helping them. You've saved them time in hiring a consultant to discover that fact for you. You've saved them thousands of dollars of having somebody come in and say, oh, guess what? This person needs to use this tool. Because if you learn on your own, you've already saved that company thousands of dollars.
Well, can I add a few lines in this? See, the first thing is that, just my answer, is that IT companies normally don't make money by selling documentation. So most of the company don't see documentation as their revenue generation things. So they are reluctant in spending money. So suppose if you want to do anything, if you want to introduce RoboHelp, suppose. So what you will have to do, you'll have to do make few topics or make few dummy topics or dummy output or dummy project on RoboHelp and show it to your organization. Then probably they can buy your buy your logic. Exactly. So that is where you can sell yourself. Otherwise, they don't see value. It was a simple thing. They don't make money by selling your documentation, right? They know that they are selling IT software. So you have to be very diplomatic in that way. Keith, what is the impact of Agile in your country?
I just want to say that I completely agree with you that there's companies are so focused on the product or the service that they forget to see, they forget to see the infrastructure that produces that. For example, let's say I'm a taxi driver, right? And then I buy a car or I buy a taxi cab and my mechanic says, Keith, this electrical box is going to fail in about 2 months. It's going to cost you $1,000. It's an expense, but guess what? If I fix it, then I'm going to get 5 more years of dedicated, unfailing service out of my car. So I have to learn that that's not an expense. In economics, it's called opportunity cost. It's the cost to participate in the market. That's actually a very good concept for all tech writers to look up and understand and present to your bosses who are so focused on product and profit and margins of gain and all these things, opportunity cost. Because documentation is that cost that's going to allow the organization to survive. And so when a customer says, oh, by the way, do you have any documentation on this cloud service or on how this works? You'll say, in fact, we do have something there. Guess what? You've sold that customer, and then that guy or that woman, they're going to tell all their other friends, and you've made more sales. So documentation is a secondary income generator, but it's also best understood through opportunity cost, an investment that allows you to have an infrastructure that supports the primary product.
That's true. Keith, my question was, what is the impact of Agile in your country on the technical writers?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
What's the impact of Agile implementation in your country?
I couldn't understand. What, something implementation? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Agile, Scrum.
Agile.
Yeah.
Agile Scrum, yes. I would say, okay, by the way, I'm a certified Scrum product owner. When I worked at QPay back in 2013, I took a class called Passionate Product Ownership with Jeff Patton, who is the #2 authority on Scrum in the United States. And he trained us all on the product development team. And we all got certified as product owners. So I'm saying this from direct experience, having worked in Scrum Agile, I believe that both Scrum and Waterfall have a place. Smaller shops, like let's say there's a company of 5 people, you don't need Scrum. Even if you're going to have different releases, you don't need Scrum. Scrum is very meeting intensive. Scrum is very analytical. There's a heavy infrastructure for Scrum. You have, for example, a backlog meeting where you create the backlog stories, and then you bring up the backlogs, create a sprint, and you watch those stories through, you support them. You have a retrospective after the sprint is done and after the deployable code is sent. So Scrum is very meeting intensive and therefore time intensive, and Waterfall is not. So if a company like Microsoft or Google or Cisco or whatever, they're going to have a big deployment, they're going to need Agile and Scrum. So in my opinion, Agile Scrum is great for larger companies that have enterprise systems that require a lot of a major infrastructure to support what's going on. But if you have, let's say if you have a startup of 5 people that are working in a garage somewhere or in somebody's house, you don't need that. You can just simply sit down, set out your deployment path and go for it. So
how it is impacting technical writing?
Okay, technical writing, like I said, there's two sides of technical writing. There's internal and external. Internal would be like supporting requirements. Like let's say you're going to have a system, you write the requirements for that system, you document the code that's written, you write testing scripts, you write the user guide, you write the deployment guide, etc. And then you have the user guide for the end users, the admin guide, etc. So Agile Scrum draws technical writers into that process. So Agile is very sophisticated in the sense that you are looking at the very fine details. Remember that in Agile, every 2 weeks, theoretically, every 2 or 3 weeks, we have shippable code. It might not be perceivable from the customer, but it has functionality and it works. It could be refactoring, whatever it is. So still, technical writing is there because technical writing is not just for the GUI. Technical writing also could be for the system itself. In that case, it's best to run a tool on the code. For example, you can run Doxygen or Sandcastle on C# or on Java, and you have actual documentation for that source code, okay? And a technical writer can do that. So it all depends upon the size of the shop, okay, and the sophistication of the system. Then that's why you need to sit down. That's why, getting back to my original comments about getting information, you need to work closely. You have 2 primary stakeholders in Scrum. You have your product owner and you have your Scrum master, okay? And that maps back to the business and to the tech, okay? So you're kind of in the middle. And this is a crazy example, but the technical writer is like being an independent in a system that is primarily Democratic and Republican, which is what we have here in America, okay, for example. So you're kind of the go-between. So you need to evangelize and work with both sides of the aisle to make sure they understand what the other needs. And in that process, you'll be able to document effectively.
Thank you. Any question from anybody? Trilochan, Uzma, Vinay? What is David has written, what is the best way to handle expectation from both the business side and the technical side and get from both sides to agree?
Right. I would say what you need to do, thanks David for the question, what you need to do is all expectations map back to the owner. So the owner of a business is the one that comes up with the idea of a product or service, okay? And they're the two primary stakeholders, once again, on the business side, like the product owner, and on the Scrum side, the Scrum Master or even the architect. Both have to tell the owner at the outset to save money and time if this is feasible or not, given the financial and tech infrastructure of the organization. If the money is there, and if the shareholder, if the investors or whatever say, okay, let's give this a shot. I worked for 2 years at a company. I can't say what it was, but I was on a research and development project, and it was very expensive. It cost several $1 million, and the owner, she was a single owner, she was behind it. So she spent several $1 million to develop this product, which could have failed, but you know what? They built it. So once again, there are two sides. You have to look at the tech possibility and the financial possibility as the foundations of that project. And from there, if it's possible, then you go forward. And if it's not possible, well, then you have to maybe either not do it or scale back. So, and that's why you also have consultants in the business world who, what they do is they do research and they find out, they study the market, and they determine whether something can actually get into the market or not.
Next question is from Abhishek Keith. Hi Keith, do you think that AI will reduce the importance of a technical writer in software company and eventually reduce the number of openings available?
Okay, say that again. I'm sorry. It's hard to hear sometimes. Go ahead.
Can you read the chat? It's written in the chat.
Put me in the chat and I'll say it. Put the message into chat there.
Yeah, it is written there. Abhishek question.
Okay. Oh, I see. Hi Keith, do you think that AI would reduce the importance of a technical writer in a software company? Blah blah blah. No. I believe that as technology, like I said before, as technology grows, technical writing is going to become more and more prevalent. In fact, one of the pitches I use in my book to LinkedIn and whatever is that, look, this is something that we all need to learn. This is not just for technical writers. This is a skill. I mean, even kids are coding in first and second grade in school, for school projects, for math, for basic science, okay? So we all need to learn technical writing to be able to survive in today's world. It could be as simple as I buy a microwave for my house, and my son's gonna come over, and it's kind of a weird thing, so I write out 10 steps, step 1 through 10. This is how you work it. Don't hit this button, hit this button. That's technical writing. I could be giving a class on DOS, the old disk operating system for a class in school or something. So I write out the steps on how to write an autoexec batch file or a config sys file. That's tech writing. So everything today is communications with a tech spin on it. So tech writing is only going to grow. And this is another reason why I wrote my book, because I want everybody to be able to benefit from my experience and be able to write a technical document.
So if I have experience of 20 years and anybody have experience of 5 years, so what should I learn after 20 years?
Oh, I see. What do you learn? Well, actually,
after 20 years of experience.
Sure. Okay, first thing is that you never stop learning, okay? We are always learning, all of us, but the benefit of having 20 years of experience is you're able to challenge people who think that they have a new idea, or hey, the world hasn't seen this yet. Maybe you've seen it in another form, and you bring that to light. And like I said, the enemy in life is ignorance. So the more information that you have, the more discussion, then you bring to light things. And in that process, you're able to make better decisions and eventually have a better product, better documentation, and better success.
Keith, we have a next question from Raghuram. Can you read it?
Sure. Okay, in all the companies I've worked so far, writers fail to understand. It's important for them to update themselves with latest trends. How do you think we can overcome that? I would say, number one, Raghuram, don't worry about what other people think. You have to get over that. You have to believe it. You have to write out some affirmations for your workstation or at home or wherever you work. Say, look, I'm a tech writer. I love what I do. I help my company and my customers and my clients. Anybody that thinks differently, oh well, that's their loss. Because I'm a great person, I'm providing a great service, and I'm helping the organization that I'm serving. So be confident that you're doing something really good. Like I tell people, I love what I do because I am creating something that allows for two things: a company's survival and a company's success. Okay, documentation is always there. I've had people contact me years after saying, Keith, wow, I read that document, white paper or API guide or something that you wrote 3 years ago. Still really good. Wow, nobody today knows anything. I read your document that was 3 years old, and I got more help from that 3-year-old document than anybody in my office in my department, okay? That's flattering, okay? So you make a difference. Don't let anybody tell you different, and follow your heart. If there is something that you want to study, if there's a direction that you like, follow that. Just trust your own internal feelings. Just listen to your, sit down, meditate, go for a walk, enjoy a tea or a coffee, and you will get in touch with your own feelings and say, you know what? I like this product, or I like this kind of technical writing, or I like this kind of industry. Go for it. Trust yourself.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Yes, I do have one question.
Sure.
Yes.
The problem, what I'm facing is, see, I work for multiple verticals, meaning I have people in Israel, I have people in Canada, I have people in US. So the problem is I'm not getting the proper time, and they are not even allocating time to gather inputs. So there is some gap to gather inputs and write the documents. So how to overcome this?
Right. You're talking about at the same organization, right? The same company, right?
Yes, I do have same companies, but on multiple verticals.
Right. See, this is the responsibility of your supervisor. For example, let's say I hire somebody to paint my house, right? I have to provide that person with paintbrushes, with paint, with turpentine, with mats to put down so they don't paint the grass. I have to take care of the people that work for me. So if your boss is not looking out for you, I'm just being blunt honest with you, you might want to find another job, okay? So if an organization doesn't give you the respect that you need to get your job done, at some point there's going to be a critical failure, and they could just say, oh yeah, this person's terrible, when it's their own fault, you know what I'm saying? And this is why I wrote my book from the evangelical side, almost from a business standpoint, saying, look, hey, this is an important document. This document is not just going to go on a server, like I was saying before. This is a critical document that's going to allow thousands of people, thousands of users, thousands of admins, or thousands of people in the dev department, whoever it is, to survive and do their jobs. You have to give me the resources I need, or it's not going to get done. And that's not my job. My job is not to call internationally and get people to collaborate. That's your job. And say, look, you have to do this for me, otherwise I can't get this document out. And this is a big challenge for tech writers, is to be able to work in this spirit with management and say, look, I am serving you and I want to get this out, but I need your help. And if they don't provide for you, let me tell you, it's going to be ugly. So this is why you have to, from the beginning, and like I've been saying the whole presentation, you have to do as much as you can up front to say, look, this is the real scope. You guys want this software? You guys want this manual? Well, this is what it's going to take. And if they don't provide for you, you're not going to get it done.
Vinay, learn to say no also. That's very important.
Okay, so hi Keith, I have one more question. Can you suggest any globally recognized certification to pursue which could add value to my CV, especially to gain knowledge on data and API documentation? No. However, let me say this. If you want to be recognized for a specific technology, go to participate. If you can't get that experience in your job, go to an open source project and find something that does that. It's going to take some time, but you're gaining real experience in that technology. Like let's say I like Java, right? Let's say I've been in C# my whole career, but you know what? I want to work with Java. So I find an open source project. A buddy's building a Java-based app for Android phones. So I say, hey, I'm going to write your documentation. So I go get myself a tool. I run the tool on the code. I write some nice comments in the code. I make a little user guide and make an admin guide and make some other guides for him. And he says, then he puts that up in his project. So when I go to my next job interview, I'll say, look, you guys need a tech writer for Java. Well, I've done it. It's open source, but I've done it. I have experience. So remember that experience is the number one thing that companies want. They want somebody that's been there, even if it's open source, even if you did it for free, they want experience. Education is nice, but education doesn't even come close to experience. Remember that, okay?
Any more question? I think he also want to know something about detailed API. Okay, so that is covered in Keith answer. Any more questions? Trilochan, Usma? Raghuram has something there.
Okay. Okay. Though there are metrics for estimating documentation, I see that colleagues misuse the time and resource, which could have been achieved with less time, right? What is your views on productivity? Right. Remember, once again, that everything needs to be done together with your supervisor. You are working with two sides in an organization. Your boss, who represents the business, and like maybe an architect, a senior developer, or an engineer who represents the tech side. So you have to work really hard to reconcile those two authorities, okay? And that will determine your productivity. So your ability to produce and meet expectations depends upon your ability to continuously work with both sides, tech side and the business side.
Yeah, perfect. Any more question? Radhika? Ravi? No. So from a last question from my side, Keith.
Sure, yes, yeah.
What is your next name of the next book? Any plan?
Idea for a next book. I don't have one right now because I put so much into this was I'm still recovering. You know, I'm still catching up on sleep. I'll take naps in the afternoon every once in a while because I'm still tired from writing it. But I would say my next book will probably be something also about writing, because I believe today's world, as much as we still talk every once in a while and have meetings, to have a written document is nice. And the reason is you can consume it at your own speed. In a conversation, there's pressure to understand and to be able to respond. And I think the way things are today is that, especially through text, like somebody sends you a text and then you kind of respond when you feel that you can give a fair time, you have time for it, you want to respond to it. And a technical document is the same thing. So you put together a nice piece of documentation, people read it, or maybe they have a question, you answer the question, then they, okay, now I understand this, now they can get through the document. So we are, and I don't have the reasons for this, but we are moving to a world that is based on written communications. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time with the experience, and I put this book out, my book 365 Tech Writing Tips, to be able to serve that need and to be able to shed light on what we can do to, like here's the situation, here's a rainstorm, or here's too much sun or whatever, here's how to cope with it, here's how to manage it. So
we have a question from Manoranjan. Manoranjan, can you ask?
Okay, sure. From Abhishek? No?
Yeah, Abhishek has written something. Manoranjan has raised the hand.
It says, 1 second here. Oh yeah, the Kindle version I just saw this morning of the book is available on Amazon. I'll check to see if it's on the other portals. It just showed up this morning here in Miami for the US portal, and it'll probably get out to the other portals within 24, 48 hours for Kindle. Okay, this other question. Manoranjan, Keith, can you suggest the best approach to writing tech manuals for mechanical products when the products and the writers are spread across continents? Right. This gets back to a comment I made before. You need to work with your manager. Your manager is more than just somebody to tell you what to do. A person that cannot provide you the authority and the tools and the circumstances to get your job done is no manager, okay? And I have served both good managers and what I'm gonna call managers in progress. Let me put it favorably, okay? Because I respect everybody. But it's difficult. Management's not easy, and believe it or not, I empathize. But at the same time, if my boss really wants me to get a job done, and I have to work with people in different countries or different continents, my manager's job, he or she is being paid to make that happen. That is his or her job to say, okay, at noon today, these 5 people are going to get on Skype and work or on GoToMeeting or whatever, and we're going to discuss this matter. We're going to get the necessary information for this document. Otherwise, you're going to get fired. It has to happen. The authority comes from management. Management has to be your support mechanism, okay? For example, I live in a neighborhood, and if something goes wrong, I'm not going to go be the police. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to say, look, you know what? There's something going on. I don't want to get involved. Could you please talk to my neighbor or something, okay? Do it very diplomatically. You care, but you don't want to get involved. So same thing. You go to your manager, say, look, I have a very, very difficult, complex document. It's going to take me 3 to 4 weeks to write this. I need to be with 10 different people for 10 different areas of subject matter expertise. This is not a second. I know that your boss wants this. I've heard the owner come by and say, hey, Keith, how's that document coming? Okay, great. I'm working on it. But the manager has to make those people top priority. This has to happen. Otherwise, heads will roll. So authority has to be done in your support. That's the way it gets done.
Thank you, Keith. Any more questions?
Oh, yeah.
Any more questions? Please. This is a very good opportunity for all of us.
Okay, so Keith, can you please suggest any free learning resource for API GE? So are you talking about APIs? Abhishek, are you talking about APIs? Okay, so that's a huge topic. Okay, guys, this is a whole nother book. I could write a book on this. Okay, API stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay, in a nutshell, I'm going to give you guys my sum total of knowledge in just a few words because we're on limited time here. APIs are the communication channel from an external system to your system. Let's assume that you're on the inside, you're a technical writer serving developers, and some other application has to interface with yours. Okay, there are 2 kinds of communication: synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous means you get a response. Asynchronous means you don't get a response. What you have to do is you need to get a list of all of the tasks, itemized, almost like a dictionary. Itemize every single task that the outside developer needs to do. Like in a spreadsheet, it could be Excel, it could be a Word document with a table, it doesn't matter. And then you submit that to your developer. You sit down with your developer and you figure out what information from the inside you're authorized and allowed to share from the inside because you're proprietary information. Then you share that block of information, which will allow the external developer to write the code to achieve that functionality, okay? So there is no magic tool for API documentation, but what you need to know is that you're dealing with proprietary information and that based upon the authorization of the owners of those information, it could be the business owner, could be the CIO, CTO, whatever, you get certain permission, then code can be shared. And unfortunately, look, how can I say this? If you don't share enough, nothing's going to happen in this world. If I'm not willing to reach out and shake somebody's hand, say hello to somebody, it's the same thing in code. You have to share something. You have to be willing to give a little bit. In other words, to get that system to interact with it. You can't just say, oh, good luck. No. You have to say, okay, here is the code you need to be able to connect to my database. Here's the code you need to be able to log in or see if the system's working, to ping the system, etc. Okay? It's give and take. So there is no magic tool for API, but know that the way it works is based upon the willingness to share important and critical code. And you can have lawyers that stand behind this. You can get the attorney for each company to meet and say, look, here's a disclosure agreement that we're going to sign. We're going to share bits of our code. You agree not to use it. You can all look at it so that you can write your code. It's a very delicate matter. But unfortunately, there is no universal API tool. There are some. But if you understand, it's like this. There's no tool out there to write a book for you. You have to write the book yourself. You can have Microsoft Word, you can have different tools to check your spelling, but you have to write the book. So it works the same way with API documentation. And I'd actually discuss this in my book. You need to understand the essence of what API is, how it works. And from there, then you can determine and create the infrastructure or the form, the template for that information to be inserted that will allow for the internal and external systems to communicate. Okay? So you got to know.
Thank you. Our last question from Anirudh. Anirudh, can you ask your question, please?
Okay.
Because we are running out of time here.
Once again, I'm the person who started the first question, and I'm the person who will be end that. Okay. So the thing is, there were 3 questions, right? One, I guess, one would have been covered, but still, I will just ask from my end. Actually, whatever experience which I had, which is just 4 years only, but I have seen that after having experience as a technical writer, right? I've seen people who are working as a software engineers, right? They say that after introduction of agile process, the technical writers, the user guide, they don't give that importance to the user guide that much, because they just consider that the software product should be completed. We just need to send the guide. That's it. So that is the thing which keeps us. We can say we are just left behind. That's my first question, how to tackle that.
Right. Let me answer that. Anirudh, is that how you say your name? Anirudh?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, Anirudh. So remember, like I was saying, a common theme in my presentation here has been you have 2 sides of the aisle. You have 2 different. It's like the body is on 2 legs, right? So the technical is the body, and the business is the right leg, and the architects, the engineers, and the SMEs are the left leg. So it's a balancing act. Okay. So the challenge is, and that's why I wrote my book also, is that you need to be able to evangelize and show the company, both tech side and the business side, that look, this document is very important. And developers are always going to see things from the developer side. You know, an architect or an engineer, they're going to say, yeah, you know, the document, that's not important. You know, what matters is building this or doing this. Yeah, well, the thing is, but they're wrong, because what's the point of building a multi-million-dollar system and then nobody can use it? Think about it. So let's say you have two islands, right? One island has food and it has wood and resources. The other island is people, right? Okay. So you build a bridge for the people to get the resources, right? Right. So the technical document is the bridge that connects the developer with the user community. Yeah. The user community is very important because they're the ones that patronize, and that revenue pays for the whole infrastructure and pays for the company's existence. So developers are, you know, I love them. They're great. But sometimes they can be short-sighted because they're so into their code, look what I built and stuff, and that's awesome. But remember that is done in conjunction with the business model, and the whole purpose of being there is to be able to provide that product or service to the marketplace and get customers, right?
Got it. Thank you so much for that. There are 2 more questions, just short questions. Okay. The second question is, Rahul sir had also told me about this. As we know that in future, right, technical writers, we are from different fields, right? In my case, I'm from aviation. Right. There are some people who are from electrical. You yourself are from a different field, as I've just seen on LinkedIn. So I believe that how to keep us moving, right? Should we learn languages just to share the boots for the software engineers like C++, Java, and everything? If that is the case, how? And my last question is, you had given an example for the movie that the ship side, right? The ship that is in the movie Titanic, the ship will get crashed after seeing iceberg, right? So in that case, if the user guide would have been, like, the user guide would only talk about the ships, how the user guide and maintenance manual will talk about an iceberg, right? So how could we have saved that ship? That is the other part of the question. Thank you so much. That's all.
Right. So basically, guys, remember this, and this gets back to the same discussion, is that you're working with, and look, mind you, I love developers. I work with them every day. I work with engineers. I work with developers. I've also worked with business owners, CTOs, CIOs, chief marketing people, and both are important. I do not place either one on top. Both are equal in my vision. I care about both of them, and that's kind of magic. The magic is to be able to connect. It's like, you know, we have like our 2 hemispheres of our brain, and we have that one thing that connects the whole brain. I forget the part of our brain that connects the left and the right lobes. But that's for the technical writers. We connect and allow for the totality of the organization. So your job is to always keep writing and to meet with people, have a meeting, say, look, I just want to meet, what are you working on? Can we meet for 30 minutes? Just to show me what you've been working on. When my boss comes back from a meeting, I say, hey, so, what'd you guys talk about? Tell me. All right, well, we talked about this. They're worried about this, or they're worried about this. See, this is the kind of information that you need to have, because it's going to allow you to shape your manual and say, you know what, I have an answer. I have a potential solution for this. So because remember that the developer and the business owner, they don't know what you know. Actually, technical writers know more than developers or managers. It's kind of scary, huh? but you're going to take that knowledge and use it in a positive way. Okay, so you're going to be able to create a good manual, because you're going to be able to pull together both the tech side and the business side together and streamline that into a manual that's going to help the users. It's going to reflect the usability of the product, and it's going to represent the whole purpose of the product. Okay, anything else there?
Thank you guys for your time. And from Information Developer Foundation, we always try to bring something new for you. And in our last few webinars, we have covered API documentation, Git Hub, and we have also covered about GIF. And today we have a time to chat with Keith, and which was really very enlightening. And in future, we are coming up with a few more courses on blogging, because we believe latest trend is in content marketing, and technical writers should learn blogging. And that I will also cover how Tom Johnson and other bloggers, and I will take a use case of many other bloggers, how they are earning and making money. And that will be the part of that blogging course. And also we are coming up with ID, instructional design. And that will be conducted by IBM Anuj Kapoor. Okay. And this video will be available by Tuesday on YouTube, so everybody can access that. And Keith Keith has also shared a free book of his Windows 10. So Keith, can you tell in brief about a couple of lines about that book, and so that
Those 10 pocket guides. So
yeah, so that will be available to you guys very soon. And I think by today or tomorrow I will share the link on my Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can get it from there. And join our Facebook, YouTube, subscribe to them, show us some love. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for the time. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it.
Guys. Okay, so listen, good luck to all you. Okay, best of luck to you all, right?
Yeah, we have more than 100 participants. But anyways, it's good. It was good. It was really, really, very good and interactive. Thank you all, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Keith and Rahul. It's actually an investment. Yeah, it's an investment of time.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Hey guys, most welcome. I wish you all my very best. Good luck to you. Be patient and know that you're doing something great. So a lot of people won't see it immediately, but just know that as a technical writer or whoever you are working on a tech doc, you are doing something very important. Just write that down. Say, I am doing something important today. It's very true. Okay.
And also the book of free and paid both book link will be available on my website recommendation list, so that if you forget the name of the book or something else, you can easily go on my website and you can buy the book. Thank you. Bye-bye.